Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and it's time for Doom Patrol Season 2, Episode 2, Tyme Patrol. Welcome, everybody. It's just like about 40 minutes ago that we were just talking to each other. Um, Let me take care of some business first, and then we'll get down to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, you're going to see at the very end of this video pop up here. And basically, what YouTube does takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible. One of the videos, my vast video library, and pops it up there just for you. And if you like what you see there, hit the subscribe button down there. Up here is going to be Harley Quinn, is what's going to pop up there for you. If you want to know when I'm be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at my schedule that I have up there. And also, it has all the links to my social media as well. So it's Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, but no tier set up as of yet in the Patreon. And also has the links to this YouTube page that you're on right now. And it also has the links to my Facebook page and Facebook group page, which if you guys want to join the Facebook group page, you can post stuff on there and talk amongst yourselves. Right now, I think I'm pretty much there's one other person that actually posts some stuff on that Facebook page, but yeah, it's pretty much me at this point. So let's get to it, shall we? Spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil the episode. If you have not seen the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. So, yeah. This episode had a lot of stuff in there. And again, it's dealing still with the aftermath, the fallout of everything that happened in season one. Because, of course, there was a lot of shit that happened and a lot of ramifications, as I already talked about in the episode one video. I mean, Cliff is still very pissed off. Actually, everyone's very pissed off at Niles for destroying their lives, essentially, and fucking with them the way he did. I mean, he used them as lab experiments, and he still is hanging on to the fact that he's doing this for Dorothy because, as he puts it, Dorothy will destroy the world if she's left on her own. He's the only one that can keep her in check, and he just needs to live one day longer than her in order to keep her in check. Which I don't know how he's going to do it, because it seems like she's perpetually, 11, 12 years old, something like that, even though she's been living on Danny the Street for the last 90 years. That's right, 90 years. No matter what the subtitles say, the subtitle said 19, and I heard, I watched it twice, and he said 90 years. Considering that he found her at he refound her, I guess, at a circus in 1927, had her for 2 years, and then brought her over to Danny the Street. So that was 1927, 1929. So yes, 90 years is about right. Oh, man. So, of course, Niles is telling Cliff about the medallion that he stole from Morden. So now we find out what it was in the puppet show from the first season at Fucktopia, where they had the little puppet show of what happened, where Chief went in and shot up the place, and while Morden was in, Mr. Nobody was in the chamber there. And what he stole in that bag was actually the talisman that he had around his neck that he's given to Kipling in exchange for making them big again. And Cliff has no remorse for him whatsoever. He's like, so you basically give the only thing that would keep you, alive for your daughter because you're fucking stupid, is what he says, and yeah, he has no sympathy whatsoever for Niles at this point. So Niles, in the meantime, is trying to come up with a way, like I said, to live longer, and so he is thinking of continuinium, is what it's called. So continuinium is a mineral. It's a space rock that was discovered by a Dr. Jonathan Tyme, Tyme, and he went mad with this mineral, and he's gone all over time with it, and he's always had this mineral with him. So he needs more of the mineral in order to concoct whatever he needed to concoct to stay to complete this immortality quest that he's got going on, because he only has a little sliver of it. But Dr. Tyme resides in a time capsule, um, someplace outside of space and time, and um, he doesn't want anybody to go. He's basically said it's a foolish errand. Rita, on the other hand, wants to talk everybody into it. Rita, in the meantime, is trying to become team leader at this point. She is trying to rouse everybody, and she actually does this little. She's got a board, I should say, a drawing board, a pad of paper that she's drawn her little presentation on, and she's presenting it to Cliff and Jane, and they're both just making fun of her at this point, and her drawings of Dr. Tyme, which just is a clock face on a stick figure. And Cliff is like, "Fuck this." He goes, "I'm not going to go after him. This isn't, you know, my idea." He goes, "If this is going to help Chief out with this stuff, fuck him," is what he says. He goes, "You basically have other options," is what he tells them. "You can, you know, take the toxic goo and become a blob. You can take a whole bunch of drugs and see what kind of personalities come out, which one will be immortal." He goes, "Or you can take that brain and put it in a, tin body and try and be me." And that's when Larry kind of comes out and tells them that they're all failed experiments. They're all of Chief's failed experiments at immortality. So another gut punch at this point, delivered by Larry, who actually knows this. And Larry's dressed up in a suit because he's getting ready to go to Gary's his son's funeral. Yeah. Joker says, "Yeah, my Google Home Mini launch assistant, Dennis's YouTube channel via voice command." Nice. Very nice. Very nice, Joe. Um, so yeah, he basically gut punches everybody again by calling them failed experiments. And you know, Cliff is like, "I'm not gonna do it. I am not gonna go out there and risk my life." And Chief's like, "Yeah, you shouldn't." And Jane's in at this point. Of course, so is Rita. But Cliff, when he discovers that the chief doesn't want them to go, he's like, "Fuck it, I'm in." Reverse psychology. So they need to go through a time vortex to get to Dr. Time. And I mean, this whole thing is just um there's so many good scenes in here again, and it's just all of them trying to deal with all this shit that's been going on. And you would think a lot of them have been there since the 60s. Rita's been there since, the 50s. Larry's been there since the 60s. Cliff since the 80s, I guess you can say. And Jane, we don't know how long she's been there, because from what it looked like in a flashback that we get, she could have been around since the 1920s, 1930s, is what it looked like. I'm not too sure, because it looked like an old tent revival kind of thing. That could have been any time, but the dress period looked like 20s or 30s, is what it looked like. So we don't know how old Jane is at this point either. So anyway, they need to all remember what they were doing on August 8th, 1980, in order to go back. And of course, Cliff lies about what he was doing. And when he finally does come clean on this, it's fucking funny. The yeah, as he puts it, and I need to read my notes here because it just made me laugh on that one. Um, yeah, Cliff lies about the Peking noodle incident, which is he was in a storeroom at the Peking noodle banging a waitress while he was on crushed up Xanax. Um, and once he recites that, the vortex opens up, and of course he has to flip Chief the bird and tell him, "Fuck you for making me remember Peking noodle." And they wind up in a roller disco. Uh, and then strangeness really ensues there, because Dr. Time shows up, and Cliff actually tells Rita, "I'm sorry for making fun of your drawing," because Dr. Time does have a giant clock for a head. And he knows who Rita is because he's a big fan, and he's been all over Time. And it seems like everybody who's been gone after Dr. Jonathan Tyme are now at that roller disco and skating to Bad Girls. And he says August 8th, 1980 was the peak of human experience off a little roller disco off of I-95, as he puts it. And the continuinium is supposedly in his head. And when, of course, they make the move on this, Cliff does, of course, and Dr. Time freezes him with his time ray. I can't make some of this stuff up. That Arita, of course, grabs him by the head and throws him back, cracking his head open, and his brain is actually the continuinium. And that's pretty much what they would need to take, but they can't touch it. And so when Cliff grabs it and Jane grabs Cliff, they both freeze, and Cliff relives his worst. Basically, it's reliving your worst memory, I guess, is what's going on. And his is being torn apart and put back together again by Chief. And hers, Crazy Jane's, is being dunked in a bathtub at this tent revival, something that she doesn't remember. And Rita, of course, is able to roll back the time on Dr. Time's face and reverse all of this. And of course, they get ejected out of here. But, and of course, without the continuinium. So they are screwed once again. And I know this is kind of turning into like a recap review almost in a way. But quite honestly, I don't know how else to talk about this without describing some of this stuff, because it's really hard to talk through it and not talk about the episode, because there's just so much stuff that's in here. Um Cliff, of course, is still pissed off. Larry has gone off to his son's funeral, which he sees his other son, Paul, there, and his son recognizes his voice, and of course, he says, "Yeah, I'm your dad." And he finds out he has a grandson. He gets invited back to the wake, but he doesn't want to go inside, of course. And he finds out that Gary, his son, had basically been looking for him all this time. Even when he was a child, he has an unopened letter that was returned to him, basically begging his dad, asking him what the hell happened. And this, of course, makes Larry break down and crying, of course. And we see a butterfly flit on his shoulder, which will be important, a little bit later on. You'll see what it is, basically in episode 3. But I'm just foreshadowing here on this part. Yeah, and Dorothy, in the meantime, is freaking out because she knows that Niles is going to die or is dying, and she just wonders who is going to show her how to drive, who is going to show her how to cook, uh, walk her down the aisle, these kind of things. And she actually enlisted Rita at one point to help her with this kind of stuff, but she's gonna kind of have to go this stuff alone as well. I mean, so remember, this kid has been alone for over probably about 100 years now at this point. We don't know for sure. I mean, at least 90 years, we know that, on Danny the Street. So no parental figure or anything like that. She's got to be psychologically damaged too at this point. And I don't know, there's this whole show, again, we've seen time and time again, especially in season 1, there's a lot of psychological abuse, as well as, substance abuse and that kind of thing as well going on. But yeah, there's a lot of we're continuing on this theme of these people tearing down what these problems are in order to become a team, if you will, in order to combat whatever weirdness or basically an evil. So we don't know exactly what the big bad is yet this season, other than we know that Dorothy has this demon, if you will, of a imaginary friend, the one that she made a wish, because we saw the at the very beginning here, the circus from Niall's point of view, and he saw the creature that came out, the demon creature, which by the way had candles for a head, which is what appeared in Dorothy's hand in the first episode there. So obviously it's some kind of I don't know if that's a manifestation from her or if it's something that is attached to her now, much like the wolf bear moose creature, you know, that we saw in the Yukon. We don't know these things yet. This is stuff that we need to find out. Is she the big bad at this point? Is it the big bad? We don't know. And that's kind of what our characters need to get their shit together. So they need to go through a lot of pain in order to get through, uh, become who they need to be in order to fight whoever the big bad is going to be this season. And that's what we're going through. I'm finally realizing that's what we're going through for this season for the first couple episodes from what it looks like. And yeah, and Cyborg, by the way, is still out and about. He's in Detroit. He has gone to a trauma um, group therapy and meets a woman who he ends up sleeping with. And yeah, I mean that whole sidetrack thing where he's kind of learning that everything's not just cut and dry. That some people need, you know, extra chances. It was kind of a weird, aside, B story, I guess you could say. But I don't know. I liked it in some respects, but there are some other things that just seem kind of forced on that one. But we'll see what happens. Um, but yeah, finally at the end there, we see that Larry has left the wake and he is walking down the road. He sees a whole bunch of butterflies and he goes towards them and they all flock around him. And that's where we leave with this strange flocking of butterflies going around Larry. So, yeah, I don't know. I know where this episode goes. I've seen episode 3 already. I know where it goes into. I'm still Oh, yeah, and Jane, by the way, I keep forgetting to mention this. Jane has been suppressing her, everyone in the underground because they want her to leave, and they're threatening to take over, and so she's been doping them with, the serum that was supposed to help Dorothy and keeping them all drugged. So she has no others coming up because if they do, they're gonna take her and, lock her away kind of thing. So they all have their own issues happening right now. Um, Rita, of course, is burying some of her stuff as well because she's trying to become this leader, but she isn't, and she actually breaks down after coming back from Dr. Time and says, "You know what? We're supposed to be this thing that you made us to be, but we can't," is what she tells Niles, after she slaps him. So there's all kinds of weirdness going on, and I don't know how I feel yet about this season. I mean, there's some really nice, interesting stuff that they're throwing at us, but I'm not getting the same vibes as I was from the first season off of this. I still like it. It's still a quality show. Don't get me wrong. I just want to see where they're going to go further with this down the line. And hopefully, we build on we get past the breaking down and rebuilding of people's psyches, I guess you can say at this point. Um, Jane, I mean, on the other hand, I don't know what's going to happen with her because we did see Miranda, who, of course, threw herself in the well in the first season. We got to see Miranda's memory of Kay being dunked into this baptismal bath, if you will, and Miranda coming forth and saying, "I will take your place. I know what to say." And she was the one that got her out of this whole exorcism thing that was going on. Like I said, there was a lot to unpack in just this episode alone. And it's hard to kind of do a review of this without almost doing a recap. So I did almost a bastardized recap all the way around, which I probably should have just done a recap from the beginning on this one. Joker the Third says I had to rewatch a couple of scenes in order to process some of this episode. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stuff packed into it. And yeah, we don't know what's going on with Dorothy now at this point. We haven't met her fully, I guess you can say, and we haven't dealt with her story either at this point. We just know she has some imaginary friends that are now becoming visible to everybody else. So Herschel the giant spider, whatever that doll, the mechanical doll, Dolly is her name actually, uh, coming out, the bear creature, the wolf bear creature, and then of course whoever this demon creature is that she keeps telling, she tells Niles at one point, I can make a wish and basically make you immortal, and he's like, no, never, never, ever call that thing. So, but yeah, like I said, it's still one of the best shows on TV. You can't go wrong with it. How about everybody else? Everyone else enjoying it, or you guys haven't? I know there's some lurkers out there right now. I know Joe Greer, you just said, yeah, that you were having how to rewatch a few things in order to process it. So while you guys are answering, I'm going to take care of some business. If you like what you see, like, share, and subscribe. And if you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the very end of this video here. There's going to be a video that pops up here at the very end. And if you like that, hit the subscribe button. There you go. If you want to know blah, 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 if you want to know what I'm on next, hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at my schedule. It goes up weekly. And then, of course, all the links to my social media there as well. So what I have coming up this week, tomorrow, is Saturday Morning Blast Off, where I take the genre news of the week and any of the genre stuff you guys want to talk about when we talk about it. Sunday is going to be the 3rd episode of season 2 of Doom Patrol. Monday is going to be Stargirl. Tuesday is another episode of Is It Worth My Time? I don't know what I'm doing as of yet. I'm going to think about that one for a little bit. Wednesday, I'm going to be off. And Thursday, I'm going to be doing Doom Patrol episode 4. I had to think about that for a second. And then Friday, I'm going to be off because there's no new shows on Friday now. So there we go. That wraps around the entire week. All right. So since no one's chiming in as to whether or not they like it or not, I'm going to let you guys go for the night. Thank you, everybody who joined me tonight in the chat, and thank you for making it this far in the video. Remember, take a look up there if you're still on the fence about subscribing. And if you like it, hit the subscribe button, like, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys tomorrow morning for Saturday Morning Blast Off. So until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find yourself locked in a time vortex and having to remember what the fuck you were doing on August 8th, 1980. I don't know what I was doing at that point. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again tomorrow. Until then, have a good night, stay safe, and have a good one. Thanks.